Scott, you want to turn it to the next slide, please? Good afternoon for those joining from Europe. Welcome to today's session on tax automation and innovation, optimizing OneStream for, in specific, Pillar 2 requirements, but also for tax in general. My name is Walter Altmann, being the global domain lead for the consolidation tax and ESG domain at OneStream within the pre-sales organization. And I'm more than happy that I'm joined today by two of our very valued partners. First of all, Richard Stringer from inlumi and Scott Mills from BDO, which will then, after my initial words and my moderation, start with a main part of this webinar. Before we go to the agenda, let me start with two topics. Whenever you have got any kind of questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button. I will try to get hold of your questions, try to answer a few directly in the chat. Otherwise, I will collect those and we will have definitely a Q&A session at the end. And in order to make it a bit interactive, let's first of all start with a first poll. So we have here a first poll to get launched here. So just in order to see whether you are already aware of the capabilities. So let's see how that develops. So feedback is already quite strong. So we have already majority voted. So it's quite clear. So we have currently 10% saying they were not aware that OneStream is providing any solution helping you in the tax area. We have 2/3, 68% to be precise, who said yes, we had some awareness about the capabilities, and already 22% had heard about the specific solution we are talking today about from BDO and inlumi, their enterprise tax reporting. So let's quickly share the results. So here again, the results from that, and we stop here and go directly to the agenda. So I will quickly introduce and give you a quick overview how the OneStream platform in general fits into supporting that tax area. And I want to then, in the second point, on the second slide, specifically explain how we are linking the typical close and consolidation process with those tax-related items like country-by-country reporting, Pillar 2, or general tax reporting. Then we will hand it over to give Richard and Scott the opportunity to introduce themselves as well as inlumi and BDO, and maybe quickly explain how the collaboration started on that topic, and then it will be hand over to Scott giving you a detailed presentation of the solution available here. Scott, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Quick explanation. Many of you might have seen already that slide or something similar. So we have more or less that common platform infrastructure, which allows us to import and ensure data quality for any kind of data we are using in order to benefit our different processes built in OneStream. That's mainly the financial close, the planning, budgeting, and forecasting, the reporting and analytics area, as well what we call financial signaling. So the collaboration between financial data and operational information in order to help you to steer your business. That's all covered with the development infrastructure, which ensures that you can provide that all within one database and one single application. And that's covered with that vertical part, giving you the ability to provide security, providing collaboration tools, workflows, controls, and a full audit trail, all very relevant for a CPM solution in general, but also things that get into full relevance when we talk about the tax-specific area. And the solution on the tax enterprise is something helping you. It's located in what we call Solution Exchange. You might know that split it from the former marketplace from spring this year in 3 different areas. We have the marketplace, of course, still currently the most important part, but also partner place, as the name says, solutions provided by our valued partners, and open place solution that come from different sources in order to speed up your projects. The enterprise tax module from BDO inlumi is currently a candidate, and it seems very likely that that will get part of partner place early next year, and will support you enhanced of the capabilities of the platform around data validation, the possibility of doing that in a controlled and securitized model, and providing you with standardized OneStream workflows. It comes here with pre-built, customizable, and configurable reports and calculations, and also provides, and you will see that in the demo, a simplified tax user interface in order to help your end users to collect the relevant tax data and ensure appropriate compliance. Scott, the next slide, please. The starting point is typically what we typically have in the CPM solution on the left-hand side, taking data from various sources into what we call our financial cube. And that gets now with that solution enhanced by a tax cube. Of course, there's a close collaboration. You can imagine the finance cube, the general ledger data, typically driving a starting base for the tax provisioning, and also providing information for additional calculations like non-deductible expenses. Of course, also the results coming from the tax provisioning, they are getting backward into the finance cube, either for reporting purposes, but of course also in order to provide you the capability to do your remaining journal entries to drive a pre-tax result in order to an appropriate post-tax result. The tax solutions itself are linked together, so tax provisioning will definitely feed country by country reporting, or if you're seeing country by country as a more or less standalone solution, it can also be fed by the finance cube. The same with Pillar 2, so you can use information from country by country reporting, for instance, to drive the safe harbor testing in a Pillar 2 process. You can use information already collected in tax provisioning also for Pillar 2. And of course, you can again start using information for the finance cube. So not only the 3 elements of taxation included in the solution, but all this gets properly connected with the finance cube. So whenever something changes in your close process, you get properly aware of that in your tax situation. Having that said, I hand over to Richard, who might start with giving a quick overview about inlumi as our partner.
Thank you, Walter. Can you see me okay on the camera?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's just a very quick introduction from myself. So my name is Richard Stringer and I work from inlumi. I spent 25 years implementing and designing financial systems for various clients. I spent the last 3 years working for inlumi and implementing OneStream. And previous to that, I was at Rolls-Royce for nearly 10 years, helping them build their EPM capability. So, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. So just a quick slide on inlumi. So in inlumi, we now operate in 11 countries within Europe. So we are growing sort of year on year. We are a OneStream Diamond partner. And last year we did actually win the Power of the Platform Award at Splash for the work we did with Autoliv. In terms of, what we offer as a company, we offer advisory, consultancy, and managed services. And as Walter mentioned, one of our solutions will be, well, this tax solution will be on a partner place, in the new year. And then in terms of consultants, we've got nearly now 150 consultants working with OneStream. So that's probably one of the biggest practices within Europe. So next slide, please.
Yeah, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Scott Mills, and I work at BDO in our tax automation practice here. BDO have worked alongside inlumi over the last few years to build out the tax enterprise reporting suite. As many of you know, BDO is one of the largest accounting, tax and advisory firms in the world. We operate out of 164 countries currently, with various offices across those countries. And what that means, and we'll come into a bit more detail in this, particularly around the Pillar 2 solution, is that these solutions have been validated across our global network to ensure that they are correct from a tax perspective.
I'll take this one, Scott. So why inlumi and BDO, and where did this relationship start? Like Scott mentions, BDO bring that global tax domain knowledge, and from and inlumi bring the sort of technical OneStream knowledge. So together it was a perfect fit. So Scott and myself have been working together now for nearly 3 years, and we've done multiple tax OneStream implementations for various clients. Over that time, we've built a core team, supported by both companies, in terms of tax solutions within OneStream. What Scott will show you today is our enterprise tax solution that has basically been built natively within OneStream, using OneStream functionality. And the key thing about our solution is it's a fully supported solution. So that means from a technical side, we will support any updates going forward. And then from a tax legislation side, BDO will support any sort of tax updates to the solution. A final couple of points as well. We will continue to invest in this solution as well. So we are looking to evolve this product to obviously look to include transfer pricing and also ESG for tax, trying to make it a one-stop shop for tax. So that's just a bit about inlumi and BDO and how we've come to work together.
Brilliant. So we're going to focus quite heavily on Pillar 2 today, being quite the topic of the moment. So we're just going to, just for those of you who aren't familiar with Pillar 2, and I'm sure most of you are on the call, it's the new global minimum tax. It's going to affect every multinational group of companies with revenues exceeding 750 million euros. It's going to mean you're going to have to look at each jurisdiction in isolation and determine whether it meets the global minimum tax threshold. And many jurisdictions are implementing this effective from the 1st of January 2024. So in just over a month's time now. And you will be required, if you're reporting under IFRS, to include a disclosure on IAS 12 for any periods beginning on or after the 1st of January 2023 as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the demo of the solution now.
Just a quick moment before you start with presenting the solution. I suggest we quickly add here an additional poll. So I've got prepared here a second poll. in order to get a bit an idea where you are currently in the level of preparations for Pillar 2. So it starts from not yet started to really at the end already modeling the impact and also undertaken the first efforts in order to really use that in the technology. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the results. So quickly share the results. So you see we have a very widespread from 18% not yet started any activities. So together more or less the first two items in a very early stage and not yet started are already half of you. Then we have a split with those who have just started modeling, not yet undertaken any additional steps in order to find a technology to solve that. The majority then of the others who have already found a technology has also already done the modeling. So more or less 25% are already ready to go. 3/4 are still in an initiating phase, and the majority of you already in a very early phase. So I think, Scott, that's also valuable information for you in order to focus a bit on the content of your demo.
Perfect. Thank you, Walter. And just to confirm, can we see the solution demo on the screen, or can we still see slides?
We see the demo.
Perfect.
We see the application.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the enterprise tax reporting suite. Currently comprises of tax provision, country by country reporting, and Pillar 2. Now you can purchase all three of these together or purchase them separately, so they don't have to come as a package of all three. There's flexibility there in terms of how many of these modules you want, and also whether you want to phase the introduction of these. We're going to start the focus today on Pillar 2 and work our way back up through the process. So we're almost going to work upstream in terms of that data flow up into country by country and then into tax provision. So from our main landing page, we're going to click into the Pillar 2 process. And this is going to load us our Pillar 2 sub landing page here. Now along the top of this page, we have our full end-to-end process here. So we're going from collecting some of the master data. So this is for the entities, jurisdictions, so your thresholds, elections, some of the more sort of master data points around the entity classifications, walking you through safe harbor analysis, your global income or loss calculations and adjusted covered taxes, through to your top-up tax calculation allocation, IAR, UTPR, and into your global information return. Now, what BDO are doing as part of the model, the subscription-based model for this product, is ensuring that this solution is configured to the filing jurisdiction or jurisdictions. So the version of the rules will be configured to the filing jurisdiction, and your global information return will be configured to the format relevant for your filing jurisdiction or jurisdictions as well. And on an ongoing basis, where there are any changes to legislation in the relevant countries, we will update this solution to ensure that it stays relevant and current for you to use in those future periods. We'll also give you access to our global navel gazing tool. So what that can do, what that will allow you to do is see the coming impact of any changes to legislation and introduction of dates and different areas of Pillar 2, so you're able to model the impact of that on your group as well. Now you notice on this landing page here, there are a few graphics. All of these graphics are completely customizable, so the data points and how you want to present them are completely customizable, as is all of the color scheme that you see in this demo environment here. But what we see on this landing page is we can see the safe harbor analysis. So countries failing safe harbor are red, countries passing the safe harbor are green on this map. So this gives you a nice quick visual output. We've also got the ETR for Pillar 2 purposes here as well as your top-up tax. So you can quickly see the jurisdictions for where you have the most top-up tax payable. Now I'm going to click in to the first schedule here, which is our master data schedule. So this will load us then into this schedule within the solution. Now, before I go into through these schedules, I'll just talk quickly about the layout of this schedule. we've tried to focus on making this process as easy as possible and intuitive as possible for end users. What that means is we can see all of the processes linked together here that users are able to navigate between easily. Users can quickly navigate between input schedules, output schedules to your disclosures, as well as some of the back-end functionality in terms of being able to see the impact of FX rates and so on and so forth. Down the right-hand side, we've made some improvements as well in terms of some of the functionality. So to make things easier for the end user, instead of having to enter data, save that data, calculate that data, and then consolidate that data, that's all combined in one button now. So the user just has to press one button and all of that is done, which is particularly relevant for Pillar 2 when we're having to look at jurisdictional totals. Import console data is a really powerful functionality within OneStream. This is click of the button integration with the rest of OneStream. So for Pillar 2, clicking this button will pull data through from your CbCR solutions for your safe harbor analysis, from your tax provision and your financial consolidation solutions within OneStream as well, for all of the additional data points which you need for calculation for Pillar 2. So clicking that button is going to pull that live. You do not have to extract and load any data. And this is functionality that only OneStream is able to offer in the market. Copy to scenario is something that we use for refiling scenarios. So where you have filed a Pillar 2 return or a country by country return, and you need to refile that, you're able to quickly copy all of your data from your originally submitted solution return onto a refiling scenario to stop you having to enter that data all again. And finally, complete workflow is to kick off the sign-off process. So once all of this data has been entered, you'll click complete workflow and you'll have full traceability of that sign-off process through the system. Now, all of this is built natively within OneStream, so it's using all of OneStream's native functionality there. There is nothing that we've done that has deviated from core functionality of OneStream. It is completely native to the OneStream platform. So in this first schedule, you'll notice there are 4 tabs along the top. The first one is admin rates. So this is tracking our rates and thresholds and the kind of the things that impact all of the entities and jurisdictions across the globe. Where these are specified by the OECD, this again is being maintained by BDO. So this will not be, you will not be required to have to go in and update this year on year. This will come as part of the solution and be loaded into the relevant years for you going forwards. In the second tab, we have constituent entities. Now, what this will show is data for all of the constituent entities within the jurisdiction selected. So along the top here, you select a jurisdiction and you can view this on a jurisdiction by jurisdiction basis or all jurisdictions in one form if that's how you want to look at this. Once you select this, you will load the entities into the schedule. This is going to collect the data that's relevant for entity classification, as well as some of your elections as well. So this will have some downstream impact in terms of some of the calculations. So you'll notice here we have things such as when the group joined or left during the period, the tax rates, any domestic top-up taxes, entity classifications here, as well as your elections here. Now your annual elections, you'll just select yes or no, and your 5-year elections, you'll select the year in which that election is made. That will automatically roll forward for those 5 years, unless in a future period that election is revoked, in which case the system will stop that election being rolled forward. Similarly for jurisdictional information, again, we have our annual elections, 5-year elections, as well as the globe loss election. And this again will roll forward for the 5 periods until stopped here. You will also see once the OECD has specified the QDMTT safe harbor territories, whether the jurisdiction you're looking at qualifies for that QDMTT safe harbor within this schedule as well. Finally, the ownership matrix is where we track which entities in the hierarchy are owned by other entities in the group. So if you have a solution already within OneStream which uses this, such as an investment register, then we can utilize that information. Otherwise, this is tracked in this schedule here. Once this has all been completed, we move forward into the safe harbor calculations. Now we can either navigate back to the sub landing page that we saw earlier to click into safe harbor, or we can navigate through the different input forms down the left-hand menu here. Now within the safe harbor schedule, what you will see is the base entities for the jurisdiction selected with the jurisdictional total as the final column here. For each of the entities, we have two columns, an automated column, which is where we're pulling information from elsewhere in OneStream, and an override column. So this will allow you to override any automated amounts or manually input amounts where you aren't able to automate something. So you'll notice for safe harbors, a lot of this information is already automated either from our CbCR solution or from tax provision or from our financial consolidation platform as well. So you can see these amounts coming through here, and out of the box, this is connected to the CbCR solution. So it is going to automatically pull these in from your CbCR solution without any additional configuration. So going through, you can see all of these data points coming through and being automated or manually input, and you'll see each of the tests being run here. Now you can see on this form, we can see whether they pass or fail each of the tests. For the de minimis test, this is not going to show in our local currency, but if we change this to our reporting currency where the thresholds are obviously relevant, you would see the pass or fail within there. Once all this information has been completed for each of the jurisdictions, we go to the safe harbor output schedule. Now this will give you a nice overview here of all of the safe harbors and whether these are pass or failed. I'm going to put it in reporting currency here so you can see the result of the de minimis test coming through here as well. Now you can see here for each of the jurisdictions, we can see whether they've passed or failed and each of the different tests which have been passed or failed here. So this is really useful kind of overview of seeing which of these pass or fail. And this is configured with a once out, always out rule as well. So if the safe harbors are failed in 1 year, they will fail in every single subsequent year as well. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to throw to Walter here because I think we've got another poll question.
Yeah, I think that's a useful step when we now seen the different safe harbor tests and how they apply in order to get a bit of feedback from your side. So let's talk a bit about what your expectations are around the application of the safe harbor tests. So do you not have considered, or what are your expectations whether a large amount or lower amount of your jurisdictions will pass the safe harbor tests? Okay, still have a number of votes coming in. Okay, I think we're now at a quite stable level. So let me quickly end that and share with you the results. So we have again the situation that nearly half of you have not yet considered. So that's more or less quite consistent with the second poll where we said many of you are in a very early phase. So of course, not yet considered what might be the impact. On the other hand, we see we have 1/3 already been elaborating then and expecting that safe harbor testing might in the next year apply already to 80% of the territories. So that the huge majority might be covered by safe harbor tests, and the real Pillar 2 regulations only fall due with a very limited number of entities and jurisdiction and a few others then between. But I think the main highlights are the first 2 lines. So thanks for taking part in the poll, and back to Scott.
Thank you, Walter. So once the safe harbor analysis has been undertaken, then we're moving forward into the calculation of globe income or loss. I'm just going to move back here into local currency so we can see the inputs. So similarly to the other schedules, we have 2 columns here, automated and override. Now, for any of the data points, theoretically from a system point of view, you can automate any of these data points. And you can see this here in the first column, where you disagree with any of the automation, or you're not able to automate a data point, you can manually input those amounts there in the override column. And you'll see the jurisdictional total on the right-hand side here. Now you'll notice on each of the accounts here, there is a reference at the end of the account. Now this is a cross-reference to the globe model rules. Now what a user can do within the solution is right-click on any of the cells and navigate to the OECD article commentary. what this will do is load the model rules here, so they are able to go and view actually what the model rules are asking them to input on this data point here. Alternatively, the model rules are also built within a PDF format in this book icon up here, so they're able to navigate to the exact same thing, but in a PDF format to allow them to understand more detail around what this data point is. Now, what we have done is ensure that all of the data points relevant for the Globe information return can be captured within the solution here. So all of those data points have a input cell within the solution. So whilst not all of them may be relevant to your company, this will be included within the solution so that were it to become relevant, or it is relevant for some companies and not others, the data point is there to be able to be inputted. Now, moving down the schedule, you'll notice there are some breakouts of some of the data points. So we've included where the guidance has gone further than the model rules and broken down those data points. We've broken them out in here as well, just to enable you to, optimize the amount of automation that's possible within this solution as well. So as we move down the schedule, we have all of the data points relevant for the Globe income or loss. And this, based on then the result for the jurisdiction, the solution will automatically calculate whether you have net Globe income or loss for that jurisdiction. Similarly, for adjusted covered taxes, again, everything is cross-referenced to the Globe model rules within here, and you can theoretically automate all of these points here. Moving down the schedule, we have all of the data points relevant to the adjusted covered taxes. The deferred tax recast amount will be automatically calculated. So if your deferred tax is at a rate above 15%, the system will automatically recast that to 15% for you. And we'll get to our total adjusted covered taxes for each of the entities and the jurisdiction here. Now, once all this information has been captured, this is where the calculation engine starts kicking in. So within here, the system will now take over in terms of calculating any top-up tax that is applicable for the jurisdiction. So you can see within here, it's pulling in all of the information, calculating the top-up tax percentage, automatically calculating the excess profits. It's going to automatically, again, calculate if any of the additional top-up taxes are payable under Article 4.1.5 as well. And where you have any top-up tax that arises as a result of a prior year recalculation, within that refiling scenario, you would just specify the year to which that is being paid, and that will flow its way through into this calculation for you here as well. Again, we have here an offset of any qualifying domestic taxes. So where that is to be offset against your Globe calculation here, that you will see the impact of this here. Now you can see here within this jurisdiction, the top-up tax has been calculated as 0. Now, this is because the system recognizes that this jurisdiction has passed a safe harbor, so is not going to calculate any top-up tax for this jurisdiction. Now, if I go into Argentina, Argentina does not pass any of the safe harbors. So similarly, the system is automatically running the calculations for you here and calculating the jurisdictional top-up tax that is applicable for the jurisdiction. In the following schedule, the system will then allocate that out in line with the allocation key in Article 5 of the Globe model rules. So you will see this happening automatically again this is done by the system. So we're going to allocate that down to the relevant base entities here. Once that has been allocated to the base entities, then we're moving forward into the income inclusion rule allocation. Now, the system will assist the user in terms of being able to allocate these amounts to the relevant parents. So this is going to display to the end user the ownership, the UPE ownership of that entity, as well as the top-up tax that has been allocated in line with Article 5. What the system will do is automatically filter in these columns here only entities which are parent entities. So this is going to be your ultimate parent entity, your intermediate parent entities, as well as your partially owned parent entities. And these will be the only ones which are shown here, so that no top-up tax can be allocated to any other entities within the solution. We've also configured the offset mechanism, so if that is relevant, the user can enter any amounts which are to be offset here as well. Now, once the top-up tax has been allocated under the IIR, The system will then calculate whether any further top-up tax is due under the UTPR mechanism. So it's going to compare the UP ownership of the top-up tax against the amount that has been allocated under the IIR to determine whether any further tax is payable under the UTPR, allocable under the UTPR. So you can see here, the system has calculated that the share of the top-up tax has been paid under the IIR, so no further UTPR taxes payable or taxes allocated under the UTPR. However, if it was, we will move forward into the following schedule, and the system again will now just automatically allocate these across the different jurisdictions in line with the legislation. So the user will click this button on the right-hand side, the allocation button, and it's going to do that calculation automatically. Finally, there is this final schedule, which is the Globe Loss Deferred Tax Asset Schedule. And what this will do is track the deferred tax asset that's arising if you've made the Globe Loss election for any of the lower tax jurisdictions. So you'll be able to track this on an opening to closing basis by year. And the key benefit to the enterprise tax reporting suite is that these amounts, including your top-up taxes, and that is under your Globe rules and your domestic top-up tax rules, will automatically feed back up into the tax provision solution as well. So you will have that one source of truth. You will not need to worry about having to enter that number across your different tax processes here. They will find their way through automatically. Similarly, any top-up taxes which are payable will automatically be stripped out of your adjusted covered taxes calculation as well. So again, there's just that circular kind of flow of data around the different tax processes here. Once this has been completed and all the data has been input, then the user will go to the disclosure schedule here, and this will be where the Globe information return is held. Now, we have not configured the OECD Globe information return because that is not a format that any tax authority is going to be asking for it in. So as part of the solution, we will configure the Globe information return to be in line with the format required by the territory or territories in which you are filing the Globe information return. So that will be part of this solution for you. So that will produce that for you in the format required. What it will not do, and what OneStream is not, is a tagging and submission tool. So it's not going to be doing any of the XML tagging within OneStream natively, a service that inlumi Video can offer supplementary, but that's not going to be native to OneStream. So what it will do is produce the return in the format required that can then be extracted and tagged and submitted through a third-party tool. So that was an end-to-end view of the Pillar 2 process, and we're going to just work our way upstream now in terms of the process here. So we're going to look at now the country-by-country solution here.
Okay, Scott, before we do this, I suggest that we quickly add an additional poll. So we have prepared here an additional one. So as we are talking, that the Pillar 2 one gets relevance from the next year, just making you aware and asking whether you are already aware that already from 1st of January, your reporting in IFRS, according to IAS 12, requires some disclosure information towards the Pillar 2 disclosures. So wanted to see whether everybody already got aware of this. We are still getting a number of answers from your side, so quickly wait another few seconds until everybody had the chance to log in your answers, and then let's have a quick look at the results from the poll. Again, we are the clear majority that the majority is aware of that and has already feels comfortable to make those disclosures. We have at least around more than 20%, 1/4, that are not aware that they already have to provide, at least in this year's annual closing disclosure information according to Pillar 2. And also another 20%, they do not yet have a system in order to do that. So I think also again reflecting the level of maturity. So we still see around 40% being in a quite early stage, the remaining part already having something and already aware of their obligations towards IFRS. So again, happy to share this results with you and then giving back to Scott in order to introduce around the capabilities around the other tax-related topics like tax provisioning and country-by-country reporting.
Perfect. Thank you, Walter. So I'm going to the country-by-country solution now. And again, this is going to load the country-by-country landing page. So again, we can see some graphics and data points which are useful and again, completely customizable based on what data points are relevant for each of your companies out there. So I'm going to go through into the input schedules first. Now, because a lot of your data will be held within OneStream, within your financial consolidation, and if you're using it for your tax consolidation as well, the possibility for being able to fully automate country by country reporting is completely possible within OneStream. So similarly to Pillar 2, we select a jurisdiction, we see each of the entities within the jurisdiction, and we see data coming through here that can be automated and adjusted. So all of these data points, many of these you will already have within your OneStream platform. So we can pull these through and automate this. The area that sometimes we see not within OneStream is employee headcount, but increasingly we're seeing this being brought into OneStream now because not only is it relevant for country by country reporting, but it's also relevant for Pillar 2 in terms of your UTPR allocations as well. So this is a data point which we're looking and working with a lot of clients to actually bring into OneStream now. So all of the financial data can be collected here, and the possibility for automating that all is fully automated within OneStream. You're also able to set up the entity classification, so you can select from this drop-down menu up to all 13 of the entity classifications for any entity here as well, and that will automatically roll forward from every period from the first period from which you're using the system. Now, once all that information has been collected, this will feed into the CbCR table outputs. So table 1 will automatically be populated based on that financial data here. So you can see this coming through within the solution. And this is producing this in this tables format. Again, if any territories have slight differences in terms of the heading titles and things like that, again, we just configure that for you to ensure that that's in the correct format for you. Table 2 is also produced based on the entity classification here. So you can see that within the solution here. And table 3, because FX is native to OneStream, we're able to populate the FX rates automatically into table 3 for you. And then you have the option here to add any supplementary information, which is useful to provide to the tax authorities for submission. Now, similarly for Pillar 2, this is not a tagging and submission tool, so this will produce the reports in a format that can be extracted for tagging and submission through a third-party tool. So in the last few minutes of this demonstration, I'm just going to take you into the tax provision solution. So again, we land into our tax provision landing page here, and we'll see here the current year inputs, return to provision and report, and the reports there as well. I'm going to go into the current year inputs here, and this will load all of the different schedules here within the tax provision solution. So down this left-hand menu, we have all of the different schedules which are available for input within the solution. What we have done is enhance the out-of-the-box tax solution that comes as part of the OneStream marketplace, which is going into open place soon. That was a US GAAP focused solution. This solution is now IFRS or US GAAP focused. It also deals with the P&L approach or the balance sheet approach for deferred taxes as well. So depending on your configuration, this solution can handle that as well. So your current provision will start with your profit under your reporting standards, and then we have our reporting to stat differences here at the top to get to your profit under local GAAP. What you will then have is permanent differences within here. And these are all completely configured to your permanent differences. So this is just an example within our demo environment of some of the permanent differences going through the solution. Temporary differences, if you're using the P&L method, will be entered in here. Or if you're using the balance sheet method, that will be entered in the deferred tax schedule and feed their way through back into the current provision schedule here. Now we have the 3 columns for all of these adjustments. So what we see is the import column, which is our automated column. So this is automating any data from either your financial consolidation platform or from any subschedules here where you have some more detailed breakdown. The manual adjust column will allow you to adjust that amount to get you to the amount that you want reflected in your provision, which is this 3rd column here. You're also able to add annotation to any of the adjustments here, just to give a bit more detail around what they relate to here as well. So once we've done our permanent and temporary differences, we then get down into losses. So losses are maintained through a separate schedule and feed their way through into here. So we can see we're using $500,000 of losses here. Tax rate is then applied and we have some of our after-tax adjustments. What you will also see within here as well is our Pillar 2 top-up taxes will flow through into here. So if an entity has any Pillar 2 taxes, that's going to feed its way through from the Pillar 2 solution here and be discreetly disclosed. We've also got uncertain tax positions discreetly disclosed, purely so we can separate that out in the Pillar 2 calculations as well within here. The return to provision, which you'll see here, so our prior year adjustments are maintained through a separate schedule. And this is really powerful functionality within OneStream. So in our return to provision schedule, what the system will do is pull through the current provision data from the year from which was used in the system. So in this instance, we're saying the prior year, and this will pull through the current provision in the 1st column from the prior year. You will then enter the final numbers as per the return here in the middle column, and the system is going to calculate the difference between the two, i.e. your prior year adjustment. But this will now give you line-by-line analysis of your prior year adjustment. Prior year adjustments to your temporary differences will automatically flow their way through into the temporary difference schedule as well. And you can also affect when you see the impact of the prior year adjustments, your return to provision amounts, depending on which month you want to see that going through. So if you don't want to see that impacted until Q3, you can do that, but you can enter the information before that point. It just won't impact the numbers until Q3. You're also able to, for your current provision, do any exceptional and underlying analysis as well. So the user will just enter any amounts that relate to exceptional amounts of the total current provision. So that will allow for that functionality as well within there. Temporary differences can be tracked opening to closing as well. So you'll see here this schedule has each temporary difference on an opening to closing basis here. Any amounts that relate to prior year adjustments or in the current provision can't be entered here. These flow through from the other schedules, ensuring data integrity across this solution here. You have deferred only movements as well as any balance sheet movements here as well. And if you're reporting under IFRS or you have any deferred taxes within your equity or other comprehensive income, those can also be tracked here too. And you will see the impact of that going through your other comprehensive income. The system will automatically, based on how we've categorized these adjustments, know how much is going to impact your profit and loss account and how much is going to impact your other comprehensive income or equity. You can also get further detail, so around losses, you can track these by year that they were incurred and expire, and you're able then to track this on an opening to closing balance basis here as well. So you can see this within here, and you're also able to break down some further temporary differences. So if you want to be tracking fixed asset movements, your depreciation or intangible assets such as goodwill or other intangibles, you're able to automatically within this solution track your book basis, which is automated through from your financial consolidation, and track the tax basis separately as well. The system within the deferred tax schedule is going to automatically just apply the tax rate that we've told is applicable within the system to your temporary differences. So it's going to do that for you and calculate the impact of any rate changes as well. So if there are any rate changes between opening to closing or current year to closing. You can also track deferred tax not recognized on an opening to closing basis as well. So per line, you will see how much you could possibly have for deferred tax, and then your deferred tax not recognized on opening to closing basis on a line by line basis. The system will allow flexibility whether you're under US GAAP or IFRS as well to track this either at a tax affected level or at a gross level. And you can do it on a line by line basis or just have a one line valuation allowance, which is the most common under US GAAP. The system also then will produce your ETRs and your under the local rate and at consolidated rate, and will also produce your journals as well. So within the total tax reconciliation schedule here is going to calculate the amount that you've calculated each of the profit and loss and balance sheet accounts should be against what is currently within the system. So you can see here on our current tax payable, we have said that there should be a payable of 28.9 million. Currently, within the general ledger, we have an asset of 8.5 million. So this system is calculating a journal here of 37.5 million. This is sucked up then into a journal report, which can either be provided to your finance team for posting, or you can configure this to automatically post back into the OneStream consolidation. I'm just going to wrap up quickly because I'm quite conscious of time. Once all this has been collected, then we produce the disclosures. There are some example disclosures which come here out of the box to break down movements on your current and deferred tax. This will allow you to view things by jurisdiction or by roll up. However you need to roll up your data, we can configure that within here, or you can view this across your whole hierarchy here. So this will give you the whole breakdown here of all of your different balances and breakdowns that you need. And this is something that is completely customizable on a implementation by implementation basis here. So you'll see that information flowing through here. So with that, I'm going to just go back into the slides here and hand back over to Walter for any Q&A.
Yes, we'll place here some summary of what you have seen, and thanks, Scott, for the very illustrating and very excellent presentation of the solution. And we got in the meantime quite a number of questions. So let me quickly start with a first organizational one. Of course, all the participants will get the slides used available, and there's also a brochure provided by inlumi BDO on that solution. So we will give you both material, make that available to you after that webinar. Then we got a number of questions. So Richard, Scott, for instance, for you, you mentioned that you start this initiative on a tax solution with tax provisioning, country by country reporting, and Pillar 2, as we have seen in the webinar today. But you mentioned that you plan to enhance that, for instance, by transfer pricing, as well as for the tax aspects in the governmental reporting as being one section of the ESG reporting in general. Is there already any timeline? When can those enhancements be expected?
Yes, so the transfer pricing solution is currently in development and deployment at one of our clients. So we're expecting that to probably be ready around Q2 next year. Tax within ESG is something that is quite early on the roadmap. So I think we're anticipating probably late 2024 for that functionality there.
Thanks a lot. Then I think also a question to you both, maybe especially for Richard with regard to the implementation time. You started already with implementing this with the first customers, and therefore is there already an experience? What is the lead time between deciding on OneStream in combination with that solution from inlumi and BDO until you can really start using that and you are ready to go and really run that solution?
So there's probably two aspects to answer that. For tax provision, the average timeline for tax provision is somewhere between 8 and 16 weeks. And that will depend on the configuration and the process that is required on a customer by customer basis. For pillar two and country by country, these are much more standard plug and play out of the box solutions now, because they are quite defined in legislation as to how that calculation process needs to work. Average implementation time for pillar two and country by country is 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay, thanks a lot for really that precise answer. So I think that should be absolutely fine. Then we had a question with regard to the dashboarding and reporting. You started your presentation with showing a few slides and a few dashboards allowing to analyze this. The question was from one of the participants, whether there's also the possibility to see the process and how far you are with regard to completion, especially with regard, I think, to pillar two, where a lot of people are involved, where a lot of entities are seeing that. So is there also an ability to see not only the data, but also get a proper view on the process itself?
Yeah, so I can answer that one, Walter. So yeah, in terms of obviously standard OneStream capability, you've got your workflow status as well. So you can track when numbers have been input, when they've passed validation, and when they've been signed off. So there is a percentage completion there. But then in terms of the percentage data points that are actually included within the pillar two schedules, that's currently not in there, but there's no reason that you couldn't create a BI report to put on that pillar two dashboard to say which data points have been complete and which ones haven't. So that is quite possible, but it's not something that's that's standard in the tool currently.
Okay. Then we got a very interesting additional questions, maybe for you, Scott. To what degree does the solution include provisioning and/or compliance for new initiatives towards a minimum domestic tax reporting? So what is the ability in order to keep track with future developments? I think you started that showing what support could be provided here by BDO. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that as well.
Yeah, so the system, this demo that I've just run there shows you the Globi calculations. The system can also be configured to do the domestic minimum taxes as well, where the configuration is for de minimum, anything that is configured, so any version of the rules which are configured within the solution will be maintained going forwards. So if you are using this for domestic minimum tax calculation purposes as well, then we will configure that version of the rules for you and maintain changes to that going forwards as well. And that's in addition to the calculations under Globi rules. So yes, any configuration of rules which are done as part of the configuration for a group will be maintained going forwards.
Okay, thanks, Scott. So I think we covered all the questions. So thanks to everybody for the attending. Thanks to you, Richard and Scott, for your participation and the very valuable input. So we reached the top of the hour. Thank you for taking part in that webinar. Wish you all a nice remaining day, and for those joining from the US, enjoy a nice Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.